Okay, here we go. Here's the part 1 review. I don't know if it's the full one though. Hold on, we'll see.
Now that scene demonstrates a very common and probably very significant technique that's used again and again in these films. We view a scene through the eyes of the killer. You never saw the driver in that last scene. Instead, you saw everything through the driver's eyes. Now, in the traditional horror movie, we often saw things from the victim's point of view, but that's no longer. Now we look through the killer's eyes. It's almost as if the audience is being asked to identify with the attackers in these movies, and that really bothers me.
That's a very good point. One of the things that bothers me is that the behavior that these women are engaging in, if done by men, would be considered brave, bold, and fun. Going hitchhiking, you know, going across the country like an easy rider, very typical. A woman tries to do something like that in these films, whammo, they get sliced up.
And then a movie comes along, sometimes almost by accident, that strikes that chord. For example, when Airport came out in 1970, nobody knew that was going to be the first of countless, umpteen dozens of disaster movies, but it really spoke to people in a way that made other people imitate it. And I think in this case, the first movie of this whole series of women in danger films was obviously Halloween, which I think, we're going to get to Halloween in just a moment, I think it's a pretty good picture, but it captured an enormous audience. It did millions of dollars worth of business, and then the sleaze merchants who came along looked at that movie and tried to put their finger on what it was about it that was so successful. And they said, well, women being chased by a killer, that's it. Let's go out and hire us some more women and some more killers and make us some money.
That's why they call these things exploitation films, these rotten ones, because they exploit one element and make it sort of sick. Also, many of the attacks in these films take on women who are scantily clad. And I think that the intent here is to also exploit the sex angle in these pictures. The nudity is always gratuitous. It's just put in the film only to titillate the audience and maybe make one other point, that women who dress this way or merely uncover their bodies are somehow asking for trouble and somehow deserve the trouble they get. That's a very sick idea.
So no, that was like an edited part 1 review. Because they did give away the ending, didn't they? Yeah, because I think Siskel even said, like, you know, Betsy Palmer should be ashamed of herself, and you should write Betsy Palmer and tell her how ashamed you are, or how much she should be ashamed of herself, and blah 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 blah. All right, do you guys want to see? Let's see, how many do they talk about here? Part 2, 3, 4, and 5. Do you guys want to see their thoughts on 2, 3, and 4? No, they make me sick. Oh goodness. All right, let's continue on, and let's see their thoughts. I've never heard their thoughts on 2 or 3, so let's check that out.
That's really sweet. That's a lovely scene. This is a sequel to last summer's movie Friday the 13th, and it's a continuation of the senseless, gruesome, violent murders we saw in that first film. In the movie, young camp counselors return to the woods where the summer camp massacre occurred in the original Friday the 13th. And they hear stories about a kid who drowned in the lake. Or did he? Nope.
He is magically reborn because his spirit cannot rest until he completes some unfinished business. Some women show their bottoms, others show their breasts. That's about all the character development we get.
It's just a series of teenagers who come on screen, say a few words, and then they're hacked to pieces. It exists only to show killing and mutilation. Here's another one of my favorite scenes from the movie. A kid in a wheelchair who has his head hacked open by a machete. And a young couple who are both impaled by the same spear. Friday the 13th Part 2 isn't just against women, it's against everybody. The movie would have been better if it had been tougher and more uncompromising, but it contains a lot of very good scenes. I have those reservations, but I recommend it all the same.
I had the same expectations. I said, well, let's see, maybe they'll go another way. Maybe they won't have anybody killed. No. Bang, bang, bang. Don't be afraid of death. It's a part of life. It's a natural order of things. And I thought it was marvelous in an outdoor adventure picture to have that kind of a message.
The whole philosophical content in this film is kind of a refreshing change. It reminded me, strangely enough, this is unexpected, of Japanese samurai movies. There's the same sort of attention to a code of behavior, how you deal with violence, how you deal with death, how you deal with your duties as a man or a woman in the society you live in, and then also the kid in a wheelchair who has his head hacked open by a machete.
I saw this film in New York, a large Arab population in the audience. When the machete went into the head of the kid in the wheelchair, they were yelling Allah, Allah at the screen. It reminded me of the angry black films of the early 70s where the audience really got inspired by the picture.
Sure, it's fun. It's not as good as Lawrence of Arabia, but it's a good film. It's been a long time since we've had an epic this good, and yet it's simply a series of mutilations of movies.
You know, I was surprised by it. I hadn't seen one like this for a long time. It reminded me of pictures that I saw as a kid about a mad slasher with a knife, a hatchet, and a machete. I enjoyed it a lot.
I did too, and one of the things I enjoyed the most about it was a kid in a wheelchair who has his head hacked open by a machete. Our next movie is Friday the 13th, the final chapter. And
Oh my God, that was awesome. That was whoever edited that. Oh my God. Oh, whoever edited that, bravo. Oh my God. Oh my God, that was so funny. His favorite part was when the kid got his head hacked up. Oh. And the philosophical. Oh my God. Let's see what they do with the part 3 review. Oh my God.
Immoral and reprehensible piece of trash that sold more tickets on its opening weekend than any other movie so far in 1984. And that is a very, very depressing commentary. It really makes me sad to think of all those moviegoers spending $4.50, $5, most of them teenage kids, sitting there watching this sad, cynical, depressing movie. Now, needless to say, Paramount Studios, the distributor of this film, didn't authorize any clips of the film for use on television. They like to make the money, but maybe they're a little bit ashamed of the movie. They like to hide it from critics like ourselves. But here are some scenes from the Coming Attractions trailer showing that the fourth Friday the 13th movie is just a cynical retread of the first 3. Yeah, real great. Jason, you can't hear him, you can't see him, he hardly even breathes. He's the latest word in leading men from the geniuses at Paramount Pictures. You get the idea. Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is 90 minutes of teenagers being strangled, stabbed, impaled, chopped up, and mutilated. That's all this movie is. It's just mindless, bloody violence. And just think of the message this film offers to its teenage audience. The world is a totally evil place, this movie says. It'll kill you. It doesn't matter what your dreams and hopes and ambitions are. It doesn't matter if you have a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend or you've got plans for the future. You can forget those plans because you're going to wind up dead. There is literally nothing else in this movie. And the sickest thing is, this isn't the final chapter. That's just an advertising gimmick. The ending clearly sets up a sequel. And what I want to know is, I wonder if they're going to be heartless and cynical enough to make the sequel, because why not? They've already taken the bucket to the cesspool 4 times for this sludge. I think the people who made this movie ought to be ashamed of themselves, and that's what I think. Why was I so lucky that I got to review this movie instead of you?
I'll get my chance.
I don't know. I guess the big dice up in the sky rolled and said Friday the 13th, Part 5. For Roger, this movie is subtitled A New Beginning. That's because Part 4 was called The...
You would think that the movie was an attack on him. I mean, my God, I thought he was going to start crying. You know? They've taken the bucket to the cesspool 4 times now. Can't they stop it? This movie's, it's not right. It tells kids out there that your hopes and dreams don't mean anything because you're going to die. I mean, goodness gracious, what a crybaby. What a crybaby. I hope they apply some edits to the Part 5 review.
Final chapter, and they didn't think that Part 5 would sound real good if they called it the first epilogue, I guess. But actually, this movie is just more leftover recycled garbage from the last 4 times around. It uses the same basic old formula, the formula I call the dead teenager formula, you know, where there are a lot of living teenagers at the beginning of the movie, and by the end of the movie, all of the teenagers are dead. They are apparently all being killed by Jason, the guy in the hockey mask, who has been slicing and dicing teenagers with a machete for 5 movies now. And the formula is always the same. Jason is out there in the wind and the rain, and there are dead bodies all over the house, and everybody is screaming, and their clothes are ripped off their backs and there's blood all over. And so, of course, more teenagers think it over and decide that what they've got to do now at this moment of crisis is walk out in the forest by themselves. Jason is out there. There are dead bodies everywhere. Let's go skinny dipping. The producers of Friday the 13th Part 5 have decided not to supply any scenes from the movie for reviews on television. And I wonder why not, or maybe I don't wonder why not.
No, you know why
fact,
not.
Maybe I'm happy that we don't have to look at any scenes from this movie again. But what we do have are the coming attraction trailers from the film, and this is as close as I hope you get to this movie. That hockey mask has stood up under the wear and tear of the last 4 pictures, you know. Only a few scars. It's been burned, it's been sliced, it's been crushed.
Well, you know,
and how does a guy like that go into a store and buy a new hockey mask?
Okay.
I mean, what do you think he looks like underneath the mask?
I know exactly what. I'd love to give away the ending of this picture. I'm debating on doing that. Why don't you finish your review, and then maybe I'll reveal
the funny thing is, there's nothing in that coming attraction trailer to indicate that Part 5 is in any way different whatsoever from the 4 other earlier Friday the 13th movies. And for that matter, there's nothing in this movie either that's any different from the first 4, really. Not basically, but Part 5 has done very well at the box office, presumably because the teenagers who go to these movies know that there is absolutely no danger that they're going to be required to think or imagine or experience delight or joy or self-discovery. All they will have to do, all that's required of them, is to look at a lot of dead teenagers. And it occurs to me that teenagers going to a dead teenager movie are the equivalent of horses going to the glue factory.
You know, I also wonder what the kick is at a certain point. Yes, I know it's fun to be scared, and sometimes, I suppose, in this picture, you are scared. I was surprised by one jump, rebirth from the dead at the end. I'll give the film that much credit. But I'm wondering what the delight is of the skewering. There's an awful lot of body piercing in this film, and I don't know what that kick is there. How many times do you have to see a pole go through someone's chest? And what's the fun of that? I mean, gee, it goes all the way through, or I didn't know that that's what it would look like if somebody got. I mean, what is that kick all about?
I don't know. It seems to me that when I sit, and I have to see these movies with audiences. Needless to say, they don't have critic screens. Everybody goes, "Wah!" You know, like it's just like it's kind of half a second of stimulation. Something happened, and I witnessed it, and that's what they get out of it. At the end of the movie, though, nothing accumulates. You're not left with anything at the end of the movie.
All right, there is the theory, you guys are knocking this stuff, but don't you stop for traffic accidents? Don't you slow down? Maybe I slow down a little bit, but I don't get out of my car, go over and look at the body cavity and see where the head's been ripped off. And that's the difference in the film. There is a real salivating over the garbage in this picture.
I mean, Gene, art all through the years, and we could talk about all of these sequels probably in this term, art all through the years has dealt with the violent and with the vulgar and with the profane as part of human experience. What is unique about this film is that they have taken out all the other parts of human experience and left only this in, so it becomes a very dismaying and very depressing experience to sit through.
I just want to say that what I'm impressed by are now, more than ever before, when I think about all these sequels, I'm very serious here, I'm impressed by all the directors who've said no. It's so easy to say yes. It's so easy to take the money and run and hide behind a mask, if you will, or it was just fun, I did the sequel, what the heck, I needed a few bucks. I want to thank all the directors who said, I won't do it. I have too much self-respect. I'm not going to do another one.
Let's go just one more level, and then maybe this can be the end of it, and that is the people who made the first movie in each one of these series, it seems to me, at least had something going for it. The person who made the first Friday the 13th movie, the first Porky's. These movies we didn't like so much. We didn't think they were so great. Somebody had a new idea, at least. And they made that movie, and then after that,
it was a bad idea.
And it was a bad idea, but at least it was their idea.
So somebody now has a bad idea.
Somebody had to think, and now nobody has had to think ever since.
Right.
At least he didn't spoil it. He didn't spoil anything. So. Fun stuff. At first, I was like, when Siskel was like, let me give him credit. I was like, he's going to give credit. What's he going to say that this movie had like great, it had a lot of sleaze in it. I love the sleaze in this movie, but then he went somewhere else with it. But yeah, fun stuff.
He had a new idea. Enormous audience, did millions of dollars worth of. It's just a series of.
I said, well, let's see. Maybe they'll go another way. Maybe they won't have anybody killed. No. Bang, bang, bang. Don't be afraid of death. It's a part of life. It's a natural order of things. And I thought it was marvelous in an outdoor adventure picture to have that kind of a message.
The whole philosophical content in this film is kind of a refreshing change. It reminded me, strangely enough, and this was unexpected, of Japanese samurai movies. It has the same sort of attention to a code of behavior, how you deal with violence, how you deal with death, how you deal with your duties as a man or a woman in the society you live in, and then also the kid in a wheelchair who has his head hacked open by a machete.
I saw this film in New York, a large Arab population in the audience. When the machete went into the head of the kid in the wheelchair, they were yelling Allah, Allah at the screen. And it reminded me of the angry black films of the early 70s where the audience really got inspired by the picture.
Sure, it's fun. It's not as good as Lawrence of Arabia, but it's a good film, and it's been a long time since we've had an epic this good. And yet it's simply a series of mutilations and murders.
I was surprised by it. I hadn't seen one like this for a long time. It reminded me of pictures that I saw as a kid about a mad slasher with a knife, a hatchet, and a machete. I enjoyed it a lot.
I did too, and one of the things I enjoyed the most about it was a kid in a wheelchair who has his head hacked open by a machete.
A huge shout out to all my patrons and channel members. I appreciate your generosity and support of my channel. Become a patron today and join me for exclusive live streams, get early access to videos, and have a say in what movies I review on my channel. Become a channel member and get access to exclusive badges and emotes to use when I stream. Links are in the description. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.